Ayo, Plaidman here. Testing 1, 2, 3. Trying a different location. That is my not so rusty and very trusty barbecue that I am still working on being good and capable at. Anyways, today I want to talk about something a tad more relevant to what's happening today and now around the world, and is like a really big hot button issue. I'm sure everyone knows who might be watching this that Russia and Ukraine are, I believe they're officially at war. I think that's the case. I mean, when you get into countries, it's like, what does it really matter? They are doing what they're doing. Sorry, my dog's barking and I want to go open the door for him, but making a video. Anyways, but it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, well, so these two countries are in conflict with each other, and that's what they're doing. Sorry, again, my dog. I'm just like, I'm such a like dog parent, if you will. I'm just like, oh, he's not happy, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, okay. So the point of the thing, and what I wanted to ask today is simply, is there ever a justified time for a country or a person to assault someone else, to make war, make conflict, and literally assault using like physical force? Is there ever a justification? Because I had this come up in something I was listening to, and they didn't really get into the weeds on it, and it was curious to me, and I was just like, what? I mean, yes, to me there definitely is, duh. And to be fair, I'm not talking about like what happened with America during World War II when Japan attacked them, and then they're like, well, you attacked us. So I mean, I think we can all understand, at least as Americans, that self-defense is fine. Now, I say that, and I'm not to get too much on a tangent, but in some parts of America, it's not okay for you to defend yourself. And I'm using examples like what we call castle doctrine, where your home is your castle, your personal space. So in theory, if somebody attacks you and you defend yourself and end up killing that person, then you, having defended yourself, you still might go to jail for murder. Like, that's a thing that exists in some parts of the world, I am sure, and in some parts of America. And that's mind-boggling and weird to me, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the rather more controversial thing of when is it okay, or if it's okay, or should it be okay, and what would be the examples, in my opinion, of it being okay for a country to attack another country or a person to attack another person. Now, I think for simplicity's sake, it's a lot easier to start with person to person, right? Now, obviously, there's self-defense. Now, okay, but that doesn't mean that if you think someone is being like hostile towards you, let's say you're in a public center at Starbucks and some guy's like, hey, you're this, you're that. That is not like really a justified moment to do anything. And generally speaking, I would say that a lot of law and a lot of social precedent resides strictly in you don't fire until you're fired upon. You don't attack unless you were attacked, because that's just the civilized way to go about doing things, right? So I don't think that's a thing, okay? Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit and say that if I saw someone else being assaulted, I'm a little embarrassed to say I had this happen one time and I didn't do anything. To be fair, I had my lady with me, but I saw a druggie beating up another druggie, and I didn't like park my car over there, get out and intervene. So that's on me. I probably should have done something. I did call the police. They probably didn't do anything, but I feel bad that I didn't do anything. So there's that. Anyhow, but if you're witnessing somebody else being assaulted, like actually assaulted, it's a bit of a stretch because technically they're not attacking you. However, they are attacking somebody else. So, and even if that person is not able to or is not successful at defending themselves, I think it is a social responsibility for you as an individual to intervene. And it could be in any way. You could throw an object, you could get their attention, you could, do something. I don't think it counts to stand and like record them on your phone. That to me is not intervening. That is not you being a good Samaritan, doing a good thing. Oh, well, I'll sell it to CNN, or I'll put it on the internet. That's not okay. That does not qualify as you participating in doing something. That is literally you being a bystander. You're not contributing. You're not doing anything. Your lack of participation is bad. Okay? So just take that. That does not count. But in that instance, if someone is being attacked and you intervene, I think that's justified. That is justified assault. I think you as an individual are justified to go and attack that person. Similarly, and I was talking to my boss about this today because I was kind of trying to think of ideas. Like if you witness your neighbor and something's bad happening over there, getting involved in that that's your neighbor, right? Now, not necessarily getting in their business, but there is a moment, and this is kind of the question, is when does it cease to just be their business? If you see a dude verbally abusing his wife in public, okay? Maybe you can be polite and be like, dude, that's not acceptable. But if you see a man assaulting his wife in public or slapping her or, grabbing her really hard, then I think that it warrants. But as with anything, it's a gradient scale. And we've talked about gradient scales. If some asshole's grabbing his wife's arm really harshly, you coming up and punching him in the face is probably not the best first reaction. Just saying, you're probably going to get an assault charge, and his wife's probably not going to press a charge on her husband, so it's going to be, you're going to get in trouble. So maybe don't do that. Find another way. I think the concept of not less is best, but the concept that is a good rule of thumb to go with is don't fire until fired upon, right? So if someone elevates it to this, if you go further than them, you're probably going to be in the wrong. But if they're elevating the situation to this and you're here, well, they have the opportunity to back down here, and then you can go down to back down, and so on and so forth, right? But if you go up, then they're justified in coming to you, and then now you just elevated the thing that was bad into something worse. Just my opinion. So that's an example. In concert with that, what I would say, and this gets fuzzy-wuzzy, but when you get governments, okay, I would argue that it is justified for another government to get involved for government A to get involved in government B's business when government B is doing not just shady stuff, because every government does shady stuff, but when government B is doing stuff that is human rights violations. That's kind of, unfortunately, it's an all-encompassing word, and I have someone in particular in mind, but it's kind of an oxymoron. Me as an American, I like to think that America is an amazing country that does great things, but I know almost beyond a shadow of a doubt that we partake in some extremely nasty stuff. Have done, continue to do, and probably will do more in the future. Does that justify? None of that's justified, in my opinion. The ends do not justify the means. You torturing someone because you think he has data, no, that's not okay. Not okay. There are laws. There are laws on the books, American laws, that say you cannot do that. So the fact that our government's yeah, well, we're not doing it in America, so it's okay. Nah. So, aside from that, let's just say we had an entity that was untouchable as far as ethics and morals. We had a group or a country, if you will, that was beyond a doubt totally ethical. And they're looking at this other country or other organization that is doing out ethics things, that is basically attacking other people, either physically or stealing or stuff like that. Then in that instance, I feel like you have the right. Now, see, that's kind of a catch-22, because like, let's say I'm generally a good guy, but I'm not perfect, right? But I see some guy doing something. Well, okay, let's say I wasn't, okay, or here's a better example. Let's say you have somebody who's like an ex-con, okay? Wow, that's not even good. Gosh, this is tough. This is so tough. I thought I had this sorted. I'm not okay that China has imprisoned a certain populace of people in their country, and they're indoctrinating them. They're basically imprisoning them. They're allowing the jailers to do horrible things to the women there. They're attempting to re-educate them. They're undergoing surgeries that will affect the women in that imprisonment permanently. I'm trying to be vague, but this has happened, is continuing to happen with the Uyghur Muslims in China. China, which is probably one of the most racist countries in the world, for the record. China, who produces oodles and oodles and oodles, I want to say in the 80 percentile range of what America consumes. Racist country. Like, and I'm talking about the government, not everybody there, but frankly, I don't think the Chinese people in general are particularly not racist, especially when you look at it from the lens of current America. So we're allowing that to happen. Now, I don't think that America or any other country needs to go to war with China because of what's happening to the Uyghur Muslims. I would, however, indicate that I think a show of force and a strong posturing and basically saying, we know you're doing some extremely illegal, unethical, immoral things. We have factual evidence to that effect. If you don't stop doing it, now we're gonna have a problem. Like, then we escalate it. You know, again, if they're doing this, you go just below, okay? You allow them to get back. And if they don't, then you meet them where they're at and you're like, cool. And you punish them. You punish them where it hurts. So I guess this whole thing is kind of a specific, like, should we be attacking China instead? And that isn't to say that, like, Russia isn't a bad person for what they're doing with Ukraine. That's a whole other thing, which I don't mind getting into, but I don't really want to get into with this subject. Because effectively, that is a border dispute. To overly simplify, that is a border dispute between Russia and Ukraine, okay? And America and Europe are both very clearly backing up Ukraine with finances and many, many other things and guns and all these other stuff. We're team Ukraine, which I have opinions on, but it doesn't really matter. But it's an interesting thing, because then you get into a thing where, okay, why is that different? Well, imagine you have two, let's just say, dudes at a bar, and they're both drinking, and they get in a fight, and you don't really know who's right or wrong. One guy is clearly bigger, and another guy's clearly smaller. So effectively where we're at, to go back into real world, is Ukraine's smaller and Russia's bigger, and so we're helping the little guy with this bar fight. But the question is that justified to get in their bar fight? I don't know. I don't really think so, because that's two people deciding to have a fight, and they went and had a fight. That's a bit different than one person who's being just the aggressor and then, you know, is bullying somebody else. And I guess the question is, what is bullying? I don't know. It's fascinating, because I think, especially with the Ukraine and Russia thing, it's a bit of a delicate thing. It's like you wouldn't tell your neighbors how to live their lives. However, if they're doing something that is basically illegal, and is immoral and unethical, then I guess you could get the authorities involved. Or if it's an immediate thing, then you should get involved. I think there might need to be a part 2 on this. But one thing I will say is that I think most things can be resolved without conflict. Okay? You can have a conversation. You can use economical and social things to basically diffuse situations, which frankly should be being done in Ukraine and Russia. And it seems like the West, meaning Europe, UK, Boris Johnson was like, no negotiation. Biden saying no negotiation. Ukraine president just made a law saying, nope, I won't make a negotiation with Russia, which is fascinating and weird. But all of that is like political, and it gets into some really nifty, weird things. So I'm going to leave you with this, that generally speaking, realize that most conflicts can be handled with something other than violence. If you have to use violence, that should be the absolute last resort. If you're going to stop other people from using violence, again, if they're going to be doing this, you should go here. Okay? And diffuse the situation. I think that's totally justified. If you're in a situation where somebody's going to pull a knife or a gun on, other people, it is your moral responsibility to intervene. Not just to call the police and not just record, but to intervene. And we frankly need more of that. There's too many videos out there of bad things happening in public places where people are just watching it and recording it. And it's frankly disgusting that we live in a society where that is okay. So, I'm going to leave you with that today. This is a long video. I'm not trying to make long videos. It was just, this was a tough one. And I wanted it to be lighter. I don't know. I'm sorry. But that's it for today. Hey, and let me know what you think of the lighting. These are some wonderful lights that my dad set up. And I'm still using my ring light that my lady got me. So let me know what you think. I'll talk to you all later. Flatman out. Bye.